Mike Cintolo, Chief Analyst of Cabot Growth Investor and Cabot Top 10 Trader. I'm here with your Cabot Weekly Review, recording this late Friday morning as usual on July 19th. So a lot to get to. We had the divergence here for, a few weeks, and we talked about the risk of a character change. We started to see that last week, and last week it was much more good than bad. The broad market came to life, and there was a couple wobbles among growth stocks, but nothing big, the strong leading stocks. This week, though, is just seen selling. The broad market has come down, I think normally so far, but there has been a lot of selling in leading growth titles. Now, I was going to say, I was starting to put together my thoughts, and it seems like a decisive week on the downside. I'm going to back away from that a little bit, just because I do see a lot of stuff that's still kind of at the 50-day line, and if it bounces, would be normal. The intermediate term trend of the market is still up. Even the Nasdaq's getting hit. It's still in an overall uptrend. So, you can't say it's decisive yet. There's a lot of stocks that are still base building. We have earnings season coming up. So it's not the end of the world, but I think there's no question that you just have sort of two different things going on. The indexes and a lot of the market look fine, not that they're racing higher or anything, but they look fine. They're in uptrends, and the broad market's recent strength is still holding for the most part. But on the other hand, individual stocks, it's just very tricky to make and keep a lot of money, especially on the growth side of things, whether it's AI, chips, cybersecurity, networking, so on and so forth. Really anything that's strong, a lot of retail, stuff like that has been getting hit. So it really is a stock by stock situation. If you own some stuff, we have a lot of things in top 10 trader that are a little bit more off the beaten path that are acting fine so far. I don't see any reason to go and preemptively sell everything. But at the same time, if you do own some of these names that are under a lot of pressure, I'm not saying you have to sell wholesale, but you want to honor your stops, make sure you have a plan here, especially if you have big positions and these things have already had big runs to, trim or take some partial profits, okay? In Cabot Growth Investors model portfolio, we're obviously heavy on the growth side of things and just taking things on a stock by stock basis. We've had to let go of a bunch of stuff this week. We're almost 50% in cash. That's not a level I'm targeting. It's just kind of the way it worked with the move so far. Now, if earnings season does go well, some of these names that slice the 50-day line bounce right back, say on earnings. Some of these names that have been base building that are in other areas like some retail, biotech, medical, bull market stocks, we could be buying those on positive earnings reactions. We'll just have to see how it goes. But right now, I don't want to say I have to see it to believe it, but I kind of have to see it to believe it at this point, just because there has been more and more damage to individual growth stocks. So we need to see the buyers really step up to show that this is more of a shakeout than the start of like a distribution phase by the big investors. Okay, it's enough preamble. Let's get into what I'm talking about here. As usual, I'm using a program called Market Surge. You can learn more at Investors Business Daily and at marketsurge.com, okay? So here's the NASDAQ, and my first point is just the intermediate term trend here remains up by our measures. Even this one, which is getting hit, it's obviously had a bad few days, 3 days as I record this. It's still well above this red line, which is the 50-day moving average, okay? So even this, it's, it just had such a big run and has extended. The pullback to this point, this is what I mean, where I can't say it's decisive at this point. Not that you want to wait for the index to be down here before you say, before you do anything. But the point is that the intermediate term trend is up. And if you look at the other indexes, they all kind of agree. The S&P 500, 25-day line, small caps, which came to life and have pulled back, but, still well above moving averages and still holding above the prior highs. Mid caps and the New York Composite, not quite as, strong, holding above the prior highs. But again, still, we'll see how it goes. There's been some rug pulls here with the broad market over the last couple of years for sure. But so far, I wouldn't say it's abnormal or anything. Same thing with the New York Composite. It's getting hit here, but you can just see overall, new highs, pull back, had one bad day basically. So we'll see how it goes. The intermediate term trend, the top-down evidence remains positive. On the flip side, again, I'm a growth guy, so I'm a little closer to this, but this is the IBD 50 index, which we've looked at a lot. And we just said how it, it was okay. It got up here, it was holding pretty well, but now it's kind of sliced through that 50-day line. Is that the end of the bull market? Is it 2008 all over again? No. But at the same time, it's definitely something of a character change, just from this one thing's point of view. You look at something like an Eli Lilly, okay? Again, this is weekly chart. Is this week the end of everything? No. But at the same time, it's had a big run, and clearly, and I know there's news in a lot of these. There was a lot of news and rumors this week from Taiwan to, chip sales to China and all that stuff. Obviously the tech outage this morning and stuff like that. But at the same time, it is what it is. You can just see the selling is really picked up here, nosedives to the 50-day line. Is it totally broken intermediate term? No. Maybe it bounces at the 50-day line, but definitely a yellow flag when you see stuff like that. Onto Innovation, chip stock, had a good run, and then boom, just clear selling right through the 50-day line. Just going through. ASML had earnings, plus it was the chip sale, the restriction to China rumor or whatever report got hit on earnings. That broke down. NTRA has been sort of a really nice mid-cap leader in sort of the medical space. You can see it's been really since last October, it's been riding the 25 and even 50-day line. But again, then you slice the 50-day line yesterday on the last couple of days on pretty big volume. Can it bounce back? Can this be a shakeout? I hope so, but like just going with the evidence as it is now, okay. And then even like a Meta, which is, mega cap, just kind of, it looked good, it broke out. As soon as it kind of hits new highs, what happens? The institutions sell right into it. And it's had a pretty decent decline. I'm not making any broad predictions with a mega cap like Meta, and I'm sure it probably will come down to the market and earnings. But at the same time, just more and more of this sort of action where at best, it's kind of hit or miss. And then this week, we're starting to see the sellers, big sellers, not like nosing below the 50-day line, not chopping around, not hitting resistance, but really, the sellers really coming out of the woodwork and hitting stocks, okay? So to me, again, if you're in sort of this realm, I think you don't want to be complacent is what my main message. I wouldn't say you have to sell everything. I wouldn't say you have to assume things are going to go down, but I wouldn't just assume like, Meta's going to be fine, it's going to come right back up. I hope so, like I said before, but it might not. It's got earnings coming up. It's already had a huge run, this sort of thing, right? Just to use Meta as an example. I mean, from the bear market lows, obviously it's had a huge run. Hopefully this is just kind of one more shakeout to, shake the tree. But, with this and all these other stocks that are showing clear intermediate term evidence, you probably want to take some action, okay? Now on the positive side, or at least less negative side, this is what I would call like tedious, like bad action or tedious, but not abnormal. So here's like Arista Networks, okay, ANET. And it's had a bit, like everything else, had a big run. And it had a nice run recently when Broadcom said Ethernet is going to be used for AI, which is kind of Arista's ball of wax. But you can see a very sharp pullback to the 50-day line, okay? Volume was up, don't get me wrong, but not overwhelming. So now it's just a matter of, I'm not saying, if it goes 10 cents below the 50-day line, that's the end of the world, but it really should be holding around here, okay? NVIDIA, which is obviously kind of the, flag bearer of the growth stocks here, it topped out a few weeks ago here in late June and pulled back where? Right to the 50-day moving average. Does it hold? Does it break? We'll see what happens. To me, even if you don't own NVIDIA, or if you own some of it, or you're not going to sell it on a 50-day line break, to me, it's still a great, really sign into institutional sentiment for growth stock, for chip stocks, of course, but also for growth in general, okay? In terms of some other names, so Palantir it's on my watch list, and I just find this very impressive. Some of obviously the AI infrastructure, chips, networking are getting hit. It does seem like this thing, I mean, to me, the fact that it's held up this week when, growth has really gotten hit, and it's had a pretty big run here in the last few weeks. It's not like it's just been sitting on its lows or there's, that sort of thing, is pretty impressive. Now, it does have earnings here August 5th, but to me, PLTR is definitely one of the top names on my watch list. Axwell, the numbers are there, and if there is an acceleration on earnings, it could be tempting. Just running through a bunch of different names. So Wix, software hasn't been where it's at, but Wix has really had a nice comeback and really exploded higher on earnings. They reported in June a few weeks back. Okay, like a lot of things, it didn't follow through. It reported in mid-May here. It didn't really follow through. We were looking, we had it in top 10. We were trying to buy a rally. It never really rallied, but it's held the 50-day line. And it's just kind of a cool customer. So if, say, this is a shakeout in the market, we storm back next week or 2 weeks from now, whatever, we start getting some upside here. That would be pretty good. They have earnings, it looks like August 7th, okay? ZETA, name was in top 10 this week. It's a smaller cap name, ZETA, again in the software space. So a lot of software is still iffy, but it's already had a correction. So I haven't seen many like truly, just meltdowns in the software space this week. If anything, some of them are holding up decently. ZETA is certainly one of them. It's a $20 stock. It's not the most liquid thing out there, but certainly acts well and actually broke out here during the broad market strength last week, and it's held those gains. So that's interesting. In the commodity side of things, I'm just going to mention, so this is Diamondback Offshore. It continues to be like the best looking oil explorer, I think. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a couple that are smaller, but in terms of liquid names, it had this nice run, this nice breakout from this huge whatever, 2-year range, 1.5 year range, nice multi-week run, and now it's kind of formed this base. I can't say it's been the most powerful thing of all time, but just not to be too inside baseball, but 2 weeks of above average buying right at the lows, like as it started to come up. And we'll just see how it goes. If there is a rotation in the broad market, obviously some oil stocks could do better. Weatherford, again, the stock, some of these oil services have had gigantic runs, so you're not in the first inning here. But WFRD is kind of forming this same sort of thing, forming this base over the past, call it 2 to 3 months. And it actually perked up to new highs here recently. Yes, it's gotten wobbled here this week, but one bad day, and so far holding firm. Oil stocks, you can trust them as far as you can throw them, sort of thing, but there is some positive action there, okay? CRS, kind of aerospace metals, there is some, again, uptick in some of the metals. Nice 50-day line test, broke out to new highs and holding so far. This is, CRS. I wanted to mention Coinbase, obviously Bitcoin and crypto related, and the stock remains crazy. It's hard to, I'd love for it to settle down, and maybe it will settle down, and that would be your sign that all the traders are out of it. But overall, it's just, obviously it's had an extreme move, but the past few months, really kind of well controlled. I mean, on a percentage basis, don't get me wrong, it corrected 31%, but not crazy. You can see on the chart. And now it's just kind of perking up here. It did generally hold support here, call it 200 many times. Has found some buying here recently. Does have earnings on August 1st, it looks like. But usually, I mean, earnings are important, don't get me wrong, but this tends to move with crypto and all that. So just seeing, it got hit this week, but kind of resilient. If we do get a surge here in, Bitcoin and all these crypto things, and Coinbase confirms on the upside, I would be kind of interested. Still seeing, biotech, medical. I'm not going to go through all of them, but this is Crystal Biotech, KRYS. Looks very good, broke out, holding fine. NBIX, so Neurocrine Biosciences. Tried to get going, not a lot of volume, now it's backed off, but just, overall still in this very, very tight, you can see structure right here. Earnings are coming out, looks like August 1st. Some of these dates are approximate, but, early August, call it end of July, early August. Obviously, if they can be confirmed on the upside, that would be a good thing. Just wanted to mention, we are getting some pullbacks today in gold, but you can see there's been some support that showed up. So this is AEM, Agnico Eagle, Pan American Silver, PAAS. Silver's not as Cliff Droke, who's, helps us out here, Cabot, he's pretty big into metals. Silver's not as strong as gold, so I guess gold's where it's at. But we're seeing some of these precious metal stocks pull back, but pull back normally, kind of like the broad market so far, okay? Couple more, Blackstone and KKR. Blackstone had earnings, but just has really come to life here since the broad market has, and hopes that the Fed's going to cut rates. It's going to help. They have a lot of real estate, that sort of thing. But I just, it's a granddaddy bull market stock. It's not going to double in the next 2 months, but this has a great history of just really trending nicely when the market does. And it certainly looks like it's trying to take off here. KKR has been sort of the leader in the group. And actually, acts well here, hitting new highs this week. See the daily chart right here. They still have earnings here, July 31st coming up, but so far so good, okay? And last but not least, I just wanted to mention TOST. I mean, some of these things, they've been doing, not to go on a tangent at the end of the video, but they've been doing sort of a lot of this. This is extreme, but this is a long consolidation. And then just more recently, it's kind of like, net, they haven't gone anywhere. They tried to break out a couple times, they failed. They might have tried to break down a couple times, so to speak, and failed and found support. And so that's kind of TOST here. It looked like it was getting going a few weeks ago, failed with sort of growth stocks, and as things got very narrow in the market. And then they've, it's kind of come back here and sort of, I don't want to say breakout, but it's sort of stair-stepping higher here. It does have earnings August 7th. And you're just looking for, I mean, some of these things, it's kind of a simple thing. If it can really just blast out and it's obvious and the volume's huge and the market's still okay, probably works. If it can't break out, you probably just leave it alone. So I just found it interesting that the stock, has come back from the dead again with the broad market, okay? So back to the overall market, again, there's a lot of stuff out there that still looks fine. There's a lot of stuff that's tedious, but it's finding support or trying to find support at, 50-day lines, things like that. Let's just see how it goes. I do have to admit, obviously I'm a growth guy, but if the big tech leaders and the growth leaders really just melt down, yeah, it's probably going to be hard for the broad market and some of this other stuff to continue to hold up. But overall so far, let's not go there yet. Overall so far, it's bad for growth this week. We've seen some breakdowns. You want to take action. But there's still a lot of stuff that's holding up. There's still a lot of stuff base building, and I still think that earnings season here in the next 2 to 3 weeks is going to really tell the tale for a lot of these stocks. Okay, that's all the time I have for today. Thanks for listening. Be sure to come by again next week for another Cabot Weekly Review.